The aftermath of Will Smith's Husbands Cleopatra series is here, and well, it's beautiful.
So just a few months ago, Netflix put out a quote-unquote documentary on Cleopatra where they made her look like this.
What?
And the reaction...
Nice. Nice. For modern audiences, by modern audiences, beautiful.
Reaction to that quote-unquote documentary was horrible to say the least. And among those angry was the entire country of Egypt, where many of those people came out voicing how they were annoyed that America was putting their own spin on their own history and trying to lecture Egypt about their very own cultural history that they are so proud of. And that has resulted in the entire country of...
Offend an entire country and still claim you're right. I wonder how that's gonna end. I wonder how great that is gonna end. And keep in mind, with everything happening in Egypt, they still had time, because this actually mattered for them. Imagine that. And Jada Pinkett Smith there is like, nah man, she was black. 100%. Yeah. I read the documentary records. I read the scrolls, I saw it in a dream. No, I wouldn't be surprised if she honestly came out and said, I saw it in a dream. She was black.
Of Egypt suing Netflix for the huge sum of $2 billion.
That's great.
You serious?
And following them coming out with that lawsuit, the main actress from this quote-unquote documentary responded to Egypt's backlash with this.
I think it's quite funny. the level of threat that you must feel just on my skin tone to file a lawsuit against an entire streaming service.
Yeah.
That to me is really extreme. It's a really extreme reaction.
oh, sweetie, please. I want to see what she does when they make a movie, a documentary, or anything about Africa and it's a bunch of white people. Her head is gonna just literally explode at that point. Okay, she's gonna be there out on the streets yelling at full power. But when they do it, it's absolutely fine.
And it's 100% fundamentally rooted in racism, which is a very modern ideology.
You're crazy!
But what I think she...
Dude, I'll just say this. Racism is probably the second oldest thing in the world, okay? That's probably the second oldest thing in the world, right behind, you guessed, prostitution. Okay, it's that old. The oldest profession, and then the oldest thing ever. Hey, what do you want?
He fails to realize, and why I think Egypt actually has a very strong chance in this lawsuit of maybe not winning an entire $2 billion, but winning a very huge amount of money, is because Netflix called this a documentary.
Yep.
And they made a bunch...
And there's nothing, absolutely nothing resembling a documentary here. Which means they're just calling it a documentary to do what they want to do best, and what they try every single time to just, you know, change history, to change everything that they can to fit their stupid elitist narrative worldview. That's pretty much it. Nothing other than that. Obviously, if you win and you call this a documentary and it passes as a documentary, well, people are gonna start thinking maybe this is true.
Of wild accusations and wild claims that they weren't really able to back up with any more evidence than just this.
Skin color.
I remember my grandmother saying to me, I don't care what they tell you in school, Cleopatra was black.
We was gangs the moment. Oh no.
Are you serious right now, bro?
And when you make those amount of claims and that bold of a claim about an entire...
Remember, also Napoleon was black. Hitler. A melanated brother, my dude, okay? Cleopatra, she was actually darker than the night even. Woo! In the dark, you couldn't even see her. That's how black Cleopatra was. Man, even in the day, she made it look like night. It was unbelievable. This granny, she knows the truth.
Entire country's history in a series that you called a documentary, you're then liable for spreading false information and for lying about an
I mean, it's fine when they do it, though.
Entire country. And those are the grounds that the country of Egypt are taking Netflix to court. And with this being such a huge court case, with this being such a huge lawsuit, Netflix are going to have to spend a lot of money on their lawyers and a lot of money on this lawsuit in general. And so if they end up losing and having to pay hundreds of millions or even over $1 billion, they might end up losing even more than the $2 billion lawsuit. So even if they don't have to pay $2 billion, they may end up having to pay a lot more money than that because of the amount of money they lost on the series itself, the amount of money they will have to spend on lawyers, and the amount of money...
Okay, small correction. Netflix doesn't most likely have to spend a single dime on lawyers. Because big companies like Amazon, Netflix, and blah blah blah, they have they have law departments or whatever you Americans call them, and they have lawyers on standby, professionals in X, and well, admittedly, you know, I don't know, maybe on something like this they don't have in-house professional, so they need to hire someone. But, you know, that's not going to be... well, lawyers are expensive, but it's still not... They don't have to hire, like, 20 lawyers. That's the thing.
That they'll end up having to pay in this lawsuit that many believe they're inevitably going to lose. But not only that, throughout...
I mean, yeah. They're definitely going to lose. You got sued by a country for desecrating their history. I think... I think that's an international crime to a degree.
Throughout the entire documentary series, they rarely focused on anyone from Egypt. A lot of the focus was put on American historians who looked like they weren't even older than 40 years old and had just graduated from college. And when you're making this big of a claim against...
Are you kidding me? I probably could have gotten to be an American historian that knows everything about this as long as I said, yeah. The Egyptians? Black, trust me, bro. That would probably been enough. I should have worked for Netflix on this.
A country, it just comes across as beyond arrogant to not include anyone from the very country that you're talking about. And not only that, but Netflix were trying to profit off this documentary. Netflix thought this was going to be a huge hit, and they were trying to make money.
Oh man, Hollywood just can't get a break. Oh, Cleopatra's gonna be a huge hit. Yeah! Why do you think that? Because it is! Yeah, that's pretty much it. Dude, these companies are so absolutely clueless. How can everyone in the world predict that things like this are gonna flop and be hated by everyone, while Hollywood is thinking, yes, this is the next big thing, the biggest money maker of the decade, in fact. In reality, it loses you hundreds of millions in revenue and dollars and everything. Oh, how does this even happen?
Off the history of Egypt without including any Egyptians throughout the series. Now, I won't lie, I only watched the first episode of this series because I couldn't watch beyond that. It was that terrible. However, throughout the entire first episode, I don't think I heard from an actual Egyptian. I don't think they even interviewed an Egyptian throughout the entire first epised
Obviously.
Or anyone who had dedicated their life purely to Egyptian.
What do you mean? Egyptians were black, obviously. What? They interviewed black people, so, you know, that counts.
In history.
Obviously.
And not only that, but they don't even talk about the actual evidence that they have about Cleopatra. They don't even show the real sculptures that were made of her at the...
Whitewashed. 100%. Dude, they just didn't have black marble, okay? That's it. And black paint, unheard of. It's just... This all makes sense. They just didn't have the tools to, you know, represent it differently.
The time that she was alive, which clearly show her with Greek features.
Catch Gotcha, bitch!
And that backs up the claim that Egyptians have said about her coming from Greece, and not being a native Egyptian, but coming from Greece and becoming the Queen of Egypt. So yes, she was the Queen of Egypt, but she wasn't a native Egyptian, and that is what Egyptian people have been saying about their own history, yet Netflix made this claim that she was black without addressing the very real evidence that Egypt has to back up the Greek heritage. And this whole disaster was an
it's not even the evidence Egypt has. There's actually quite a bit of evidence that, you know, Cleopatra is Greek descent. Well, there's also slight evidence from a little bit different sides that she was, like, you know, slightly different descent, but nothing even comes close to actual Africa.
Absolute new low for Hollywood, but it leads to an even deeper question, which is why Hollywood must put a political marketing spin on every single project.
It's no longer 1937.
Because politics definitely has a place in art, and art should reflect politics, and there are times that it should have a political spin.
I mean, there's no reason for it to do any of those things. Art is art. It doesn't need to reflect the modern day. It doesn't need to reflect a viewpoint. It doesn't need to reflect an ideology. It doesn't need to do any of that. Absolutely not necessary, in fact.
However, it shouldn't be on every single project, and on top of that, why is it now impossible to market a movie or a show with the quality of the show rather than the politics?
I feel like Star Wars...
Because there's no quality in these shows, obviously.
This is very, like, patriarchal, so...
Because it seems like nowadays, they hardly ever talk about the quality of the series. With so many shows coming out from various production companies, they talk about the diversity, they talk about the gender politics,
obviously.
They talk about whatever political...
How feminism was such a great thing back in the year... Well, I don't know, 200 BC or something like that. Just giving a random number here. But yeah, they're probably going to talk about how great that was. The only thing feminism has ever achieved in real life and gender politics have achieved in real life is the destruction of Rome. That's pretty much it. And that is the sign of a dying nation.
Spin they may have, and that's all fine and good, but you hardly ever hear them talk about what makes the show good, why the series is actually quality, and why people should give up their own hard-earned money to watch a movie or watch a show that is actually good. And why we know this has gotten really bad is for the simple fact that it is now bled into documentaries. If a documentary now is more about...
I mean, honestly, it was only a matter of time. Again, keep in mind, these people just want to rewrite history and change reality. So, it doesn't matter to them that it's a documentary or not. They're gonna do what they want to do.
About a political spin rather than unbiased truth, then we know this is a serious problem in Hollywood, and we know that this has to be addressed.
Just stop this, please.
But what's hilarious about all of these political spins that they use to market a series or a show or a so-called documentary is that most audience members are happy to watch a show or film just because it's good. They're fine to sit down and watch a movie or a show regardless of the race of the actors, just as long as...
Yeah, if this was done well, no one except the Egyptians would complain, okay? And keep in mind, that's always the case. If something's done well, you just don't complain about it. We see it in movies, we see it in gaming, we see it in everything. So, some legendary movies, cult classics, some series, have the dumbest plots and the greatest plot holes ever created, but in general, they are done so well that you kind of ignore it. Like, for example, Star Wars, everyone's favorite example. The Jedi are literal morons. They're incapable fools. Palpatine has 100% right to rule the galaxy in every way possible. And he would create a better, more sophisticated, more fair universe than the Jedi ever would. But the Jedis are the good ones. But no one cares about that in Star Wars because, you know, that was established when the series was still good. You know? It is what it is.
as the actual story is good. And that is no more evident than the simple fact that Crazy Rich Asians could be a global hit. Black Panther can make over $1 billion. Across the Spider-Verse can also be an absolute box office hit, and the reason that they are hits are because the story is good. So majority audience members...
I completely forgot, yeah. All of these things are essentially black actor-led and non-white-led. That's the point of what he's trying to say here. I completely forgot about it because, yeah, these are just good things. You don't even think about this when they're good things. Yeah, I almost missed the point here. Wow. Yeah, it's just, if it's good, it's good. No one cares.
Members out there, majority people out there are fine to sit down and watch a movie that is diverse just as long as the story is good. And nowadays we have this great opportunity in Hollywood to build a truly diverse industry where we tell great stories from different cultures just as long...
I mean, the great stories part is kind of not gonna happen, my dude. Sorry to spoil it, but yeah.
As the actual story is good. You don't need to market a story based on the politics of it. You don't need to use a diversity spin in order to market a project to the audience. They're fine to sit down and watch a diverse movie. They just want to make sure it's good. So why don't these studios focus on marketing their movies through the quality of what they're talking about? Talk about why this show is good. Talk about why this series is of such a high quality. What makes this series...
I think the reason they don't do that is they understand they have a stinker. For example, whenever a new games are the best example of this. When a game comes out and you see that the trailer is just chopped up and, you know, 0.5 seconds of this and that, and you can't understand anything that's going on, that's a red flag. Because, you know, if the game was good, they would actually show the game. Same with movies, you know. They would just, you know, make a good movie if they could, but they can't.
Series different, what makes this series great as a story, and people are going to be fine to watch it as long as you focus on story. But when you try and market it politically, it makes people feel like you don't actually have a good story because you're clearly relying on different political pandering in order to make money for the show and not relying on the actual quality of it. Because like I said, Crazy Rich Asians is an incredible film, and that's why it made a lot of money. Black Panther is an incredible film, and that's...
Yeah, and after after Black Panther now, what's gonna happen? They're probably gonna push stupid garbage like Shuri or Riri Williams. The most disgusting, decrepit, boring characters that have ever existed. Even in comic book form, those characters are absolutely just not worth existing. Man, it's gonna be sad.
That's why it made a lot of money. So we can build a great diverse industry, and we're definitely on the way there. However, story has to come first because you're in the storytelling business. And when it comes to documentaries, truth and unbiased opinion has to come first as well. And clearly, this idea of trying to pander politically doesn't work with audience members, which is evident through the audience reviews for Cleopatra. This is one of the...
Man, we should probably talk about Robin Hood, or whatever it's supposed to be pronounced. You know, the modern day adaptation. Holy moly, that thing is bad.
Worst review shows of all time, if not the worst review show. I don't think it even got above 10% with the reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, and that's coming from the audience who they were trying to pander to. That's coming from the audience that they thought would eat up this diverse...
I wonder, by the way, what are Rotten Tomatoes going to do in this situation, you know? Because, okay, they can easily say, yeah, the viewers are mad, racist and bad, so they are review bombing our glorious Cleopatra. But what do you do when the reviewers are not even happy with this garbage and market at like less than 10%? What do you do then? What do you do then? Just ban the reviewers' reviews? I mean, everyone should know at this point that Rotten Tomatoes is a complete hack site. And, you know, it's as biased as it honestly can get. And it's manipulated by other big companies that just pay reviewers less than $50 for a positive one. Dude, it's insane.
Pandering, and they thought would love the fact that they made Cleopatra black. However, it comes down to the fact that audiences don't care about the politics of the show if the show isn't good, and if the documentary isn't based on truth. And they know when you're using diversity as a marketing tactic and as a way to make money, then actually for the good of what you're...
Yeah, pretty much like always. 9 out of 10 times. It's just a ploy.
Trying to do. They know you're not trying to be a good company. They know you're not actually trying to improve diversity in this world. You just thought it would make you a lot of money, and that clearly backfired.
So, do you think that maybe the people at Netflix in Hollywood think that 50% of America is black? I mean, there's a chance that they may think that. Because the average American thinks that 50% of America is black. Well, close. It's not that much as 50, but it's ridiculously high. It's like 40 plus or something like that.
And now they're getting sued for...
That people think that America is 50% black, even though it's not even near that. But because of the depictions in television, Hollywood, the movies, games, and everything, you know, that's just what people believe.
$2 billion. And it's insane to me that a literal...
So, yeah, maybe Hollywood is trying to grasp a market that doesn't even exist because they're too dumb to look up statistics.
Can now sue a movie studio, and that really shows the state of where we're at right now and how many of these studios need to get back to focusing on quality of story. And Netflix are a studio that have done that.
Look
As
at
you
that,
can
One
see
Piece.
with the show One Piece, with Wednesday, with Stranger Things, they have put out some incredible stories, and they seem to be putting story first as of late. However, some of their shows and some of their movies haven't been great.
There's some talk about blah blah blah. Hollywood is not gonna stay rogue, blah blah blah. I don't know. I think they're gonna do like one good thing. They're gonna make like one accidentally good show, and then they're gonna be like, oh well, time to go back to the Vogue stuff, and that's gonna be how it goes. It is what it is. Jesse Grant, by the way, boys. Pretty good video. Pretty good video. Reviews, breakdowns, analysis of entertainment media business inquiries. That's the business inquiries was later on his email, by the way, if you're wondering. It's just there's the way YouTube does this is pretty sad. But yeah, business inquiries, then it's his email. He wrote it like that in his bio. Anyway, this was Quizzer Citizen. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.